afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to once again another session here at our Government Information Center. Your host for this afternoon, pardon me, my name is Desire Shianua Kahiha, and I am your host for this afternoon. The topic that we are tackling this afternoon is duties and powers of labor inspectors. And we have two panelists in the studio that will be guiding us through this conversation. And as I always say, it's a conversation. So please be informed that you can find us on our social media platforms. That is Facebook. We are at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is on Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube, and our handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. As I said, we're looking at duties and powers of labor inspectors, and we have two panelists here in the studio. We welcome back Ms. Aune Mujanima, and she is the Director for Labor Services at the Ministry of Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation. Good afternoon, Ms. Aune.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us again.
Thank you for availing yourself again. But today we've got a fresh face, and that is Mr. Henok Mukwa. He is the Deputy Director for the Labor Inspectorate for the Ministry of Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Now we jump right into it, and I think the biggest question here that we're kicking off with is, who is a labor inspector and what are the duties and powers of a labor inspector?
Thank you. I think I will first answer the first component of the questions. Who is a labor inspector? A labor inspector is an official appointed by the Minister of Labor under the sections in the Labor Act 124, subsection 1, which is charged with the duty and authority to enforce the labor law. Any order or award that is issued as a result of any section within the labor law, and that is the person that we call a labor inspector.
Okay.
Yes.
And their duties and powers, I believe Mr. Amukwa can help us with that.
Thank you very much. I will deal with the duties of labor inspectors, the first part of the question. The duties of the labor inspectors is allotted, who's appointed in terms of section 124 is allotted my director. The duties, among the others, is to receive the complaints. These are the complaints these are labor complaints. So first of all, the complaints are received by the labor inspectors, and then the labor inspector has to find out first that this is a legitimate complaint within the provisions of the Labor Act. So upon that, receiving the complaint, he cannot just end up, he or she cannot just end up there. She tried to determine or to understand the complaint, and upon understanding the complaint, he can now or she can make an appointment to call the other party, who is the respondent, in order to determine or to hear from both parties. And this is, we call it, it's auditeram patema. It's a Greek principle whereby you call all the parties to hear from both sides, simply because you cannot just hear from one side. You have to call them so that each and every one can present his side of the story. And then from there, then the labor inspector can determine the matter. And also the duties among the others also is to conduct the workplace inspection. The labor inspectors can conduct the workplace inspection in order to determine the level of compliance with the provisions of the Labor Act. They are also doing a lot of list of duties, like compile the comprehensive report after conducting the inspection, and also do the administrative work of filing and also doing the other work.
Okay, but with our second question, it brings me to this point of, we want to gain clarity. We want to gain clarity so that the next person who's watching and listening and has this question in mind goes away from this show this afternoon knowing that they have been educated on this, because this is now where we want to get a clear distinction between duties and powers. I think this can get a bit misconstrued, and that is where we want that clarity before we carry on with the session this afternoon.
Thank you for the question, and let me try to make sure that I shed lights on the difference. Duties that are carried out by the labor inspectors comprises of job responsibilities that they are expected to do, even if they are not then doing the responsibility, placed by them by the minister. Because when they are appointed by the minister, it is after the duly process of administrative appointment within the public service in the government is done. So that simply means these people are, before being a labor inspector, they are government officials, and therefore are expected to do duties within the office of any officials, but based on their duties, specific duties within that directorate. Now, when you talk of the power, you talk of the authority that is placed upon these people based on the mandate according to the law. Now, when you talk of the power of a labor inspector have power to enter at any, we say any reasonable time, enter any workplace premises without announcement or seeking for authorization to come. And such work premises, they also have the power to make sure that they interview anybody within that premises. If they want to do an interview, they can be able to get any particular document from an employer or a worker, and you should not be in a position to also give falsified information to them, because then they have the power to make sure that they then open a case against you. They can seize any document, any object, and make copy of those if it is going to be utilized in what they are investigating. What really they don't do is arrest, because it is not a criminal law. At the same time, they can take samples of atmosphere or object that can be found and can be utilized in a particular complaint or particular investigation that is related to labor. When we speak of a labor inspector, we are speaking an inspector that is responsible for basic condition of employment and also for occupational safety and health. And if we want to take sample of a particular chemical or element used in a particular workplace so that it can be tested, a labor inspector have a power to take that and go with it and make sure that it's utilized. At the same time, they can also order in any prescribed form an individual to appear before for questioning. So, and when you are summoned, you are not really in a position to refuse. So you should provide, yourself at the respective office of a labor inspector in any particular region where we are, so that you then be able to answer. And that's what he said when there is a complaint, we summon the employer as well, so that we can be able to sit down with both parties and be able to mediate, because our responsibility is to make sure that there are amicable solutions, labor amicable solutions found between the two parties. Then also, we can require an employer to pay an employee the owed remuneration pay according to the Labor Act. That we do when we receive complaint of those that have been worked, or we were doing inspection and we realize that what you are paying your people for a particular benefit is not what is prescribed by the law. So we have then the power to order you to pay that, and you should. Because if you did not, we will follow the law and make sure that we end up auctioning up something of yours to make sure that those people are paid. And maybe finally, because it's a summary, is to enforce arbitrations and award that are made under the Labor Act, and any order that is made under the Labor Act. That power we also do have as Labor Inspector.
Okay, okay. I'm staying quickly with your response here. You mentioned two things. Summons, where when you are summoned as an individual, you don't have much of a choice. You need to avail yourself, regardless of which part of a country or so the summons need you to be at. Do I then, as the summoned individual, have the right to whether telephonically or via email or whatever, to communicate with your officers if at a particular date that is stated within the summons I cannot be there? Or what are my options around the summons?
We are human beings, and we are working with human beings.
Yeah.
And our main issue, our main responsibility, it's a amicable resolution of labor conflict, labor unrest, and dispute. So what we do is that we negotiate we discuss with you. When you are summoned and there is a day that you have a reason that is acceptable that you won't be able to be available, then we can either reschedule, and because there are issues that, labor issues that you cannot really easily resolve on a telephonic discussion, because both parties has to be there, and you have to mediate so that they can really be able to reach an amicable solution. We could relook then at your availability and be able to reset the date, as long as it's reasonable. Yeah. And if it is not reasonable, we know what we are summoning is not you as an individual. Unless you are working alone in your organizations. We are summoning somebody representing an organization. And therefore, if I am not in the office, then obviously AMOQA is in. And therefore, AMOQA will be able to represent the organization and be able to be mandated to make decisions in consultation with you. And some, when it's coming to labor issues really, and when it's coming to the enforcement of the law, are issues not to be negotiated because they are legally supposed to be carried out. Yeah. So one will come, yes, we need to negotiate and make you understanding, because discussion serve also our educational platform. Because sometimes a person would found being wanting in a situation, not necessarily because they want to treat the other person badly, but because they don't have an understanding of the law. So, and therefore it's important to make sure that we also use the platform to create peace, because these people at some juncture will continue to work together as employee and employer.
I'm staying with your response because you also spoke to incidences where you sometimes find where an employer has not necessarily been paying the employee in accordance to what the law stipulates. And as you also rightfully just said now, that sometimes it's the knowledge of the law or the lack thereof. Now my question speaks to, what if you do get there and this employer has actually been overpaying? Have you had such incidences? Do you then force them to rework and work in accordance to the labor law, or do you leave them to pay the amount that they've been paid? Because now this is something different in comparison to somebody who's been underpaying an employee.
Ours is it's discussion and it's understanding.
Okay.
And I think maybe Amokwa will come in because he's in the field more than I am. But the issue is, we bring it to their, understanding that there is an overpayment according to the law. You were even supposed to receive this, but the company is providing this. You will find then where employee becomes so annoyed and might be the one ending up saying, the labor inspectors apparently are in the pocket of the bigger company, or many other employers, they are not listening to us.
Yeah.
But it's just necessarily because you are telling a particular employee that according to the law, this is how it is.
Yeah.
But you are the one now who is on the other side of the complaint. So here is your employer. We negotiate then with the employer to say either, the Act always call for what is beneficial to the employee. And what is in the Act is, it's the minimum of what should be provided, right? So meaning we negotiate that you, either if that is what you have been paying your people and you feel it's value for money and for the service that you are provided, you continue because you are above the minimal, you are doing well, and it's beneficial to the employee. So if then the employer really feel that, no, I just paid them this high because I don't understand, then the employer, it's not us to negotiate the issue, but the union. Remember, employer have trade union that should then renegotiate their benefits. So we just explain the situation, what the law says. We also made the employer understand that the law, it's a minimum benefit, but it calls for whatever is beneficial to the employee. And therefore, if you feel this is not what you need to do to continue doing or providing, you need to go back and renegotiate with the bargaining unit so that you have a collective agreement that speaks to what you want to. And you should really prove to us that the negotiation has gone through and there is an understanding so that we don't create labor unrest.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Mr. Amuka, we haven't forgotten about you.
Okay.
Yes, we haven't forgotten about you.
Okay.
This next one we are posing to you. In the same vein, and this is with reference to the previous question that we had with regards to the distinction between duties and powers. So at this point, we would want to then find out from you the distinction between the duties of the police force and those of a labor inspector.
Yes, thank you very much. The labor inspector, as it was alluded, they are there to enforce the provisions of the Labor Act, and also to make sure that they attend to the labor complaints. So, and the distinction is that the duties and the responsibilities of the labor issue is more on advisory role and a mediator role. It's not really based on or more on a criminal nature per se. So where some provisions they give the criminal maybe to constitute a criminal transgression, it's where that issue has to be liable for any conviction through the police. However, at places where we find out that our work as labor inspectors have been obstacled, maybe somebody is trying to obstruct or hinder our work. So obvious, we have to work hand in hand with the police officer so that they can be able now to, because they are the one that are using their force, so that they can assist us when we are dealing with the labor-related issue.
Okay, okay. Just a reminder, because I say this every single time, and I will keep saying it because that is how we see this platform. It's one where we have conversations with each other about topics that affect all of us. So you can find us live streaming on our social media platforms. Facebook is our handle. There is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can also find us on our YouTube platform, and the handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. Remember, you can also drop your comments on those two platforms. A little later on in the show, we will also be opening up our telephone lines, and the number there is 400-397. 400-397. 061 is the area code. While we wait for your comments, we continue with the questions that we're posing to our our panelists. Pardon me, I've made you into journalists this afternoon. For those who are joining us now only, the topic is duties and powers of labor inspectors, and we're joined by the Director for Labor Services in the Ministry of Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation, that is Ms. Aune Mujianima. And then we also have the Deputy Director for the Labor Inspectorate in the same ministry as well, and that is Mr. Shao Henok Amukwa. We continue. Question here is with regards to specifics. What specific powers should labor inspectors exercise during workplace inspections or investigations?
Yes, thank you very much. The specific power per se, are more or less the same as my director has alluded. When the labor inspector conduct the workplace inspection, obviously they have the power, and those powers, they have the power to even collect or to require the employers to produce any document, or to produce any document like books for examination, and require also the employers to explain what is the content of the document without misleading the giving false information or misleading information to the labor inspector, so that he can conduct his workplace inspection thoroughly and get the quality information that he needs to require. So he also has the labor inspector has also the power to get to capture any picture, or get any photograph, or require or assess or size any document that will going to help the labor inspectors now to come up with the comprehensive and good conclusion in that matter.
Okay.
Yes.
We have a caller on the line. That was a quick response. Thank you. Mr. Nyambe from Katima Mulilo is on the line for us. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to our show. Mr. Nyambe? Hello, Mr. Nyambe? I think Mr. Nyambe is struggling to hear us. Hello? Okay, while we wait for Mr. Nyambe to give us a call back, we stay with Mr. Amukwa. We want to find out from you, what challenges do labor inspectors encounter when carrying out their duties? Some of the examples that you are aware of through your experience in this field.
Yes, the challenges, they are many, starting from the gate where security guard doesn't want to allow you to enter into the premises, and up to the receptionist. Yeah, in that way we found the challenges, and by finding that challenges, we try now to try to make to try to explain more to overcome those challenges. And sometimes the challenges is that when we are entering the work premises, the employees, they are fail or refuse to give you the information. Probably, maybe they are fear of their employers, that maybe if we give or maybe they are cautioned, or maybe they are warned that should you give this information to the labor inspector, maybe there are some consequences also within the workplace. Those are one of the challenges also that we are one of the challenges that we are finding. And there are also challenges where right now we are facing the inspection in agricultural, the farmers. We found the doors, they are locked, preventing our labor inspectors to enter so that they can conduct the proper workplace inspection. And also the lack of information the employers and both employer and employees, they really do not have the information, and also they don't understand the purpose of the workplace inspection. They don't understand the benefit of conducting the workplace inspection. So they both the benefit for the employer and also the benefit for the employees, because this is a mutual benefit for both of the parties.
Okay. We would like to welcome Mr. Nyambe. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Yes,
We are well. Thank you very much for joining our session this afternoon. How would you like to add your voice to the conversation?
yes. I was just wanted to ask this is of Fatima.
Yes.
There is a project which is running here. It is and then the reseller project in this hostel, the Masokotwane and reseller.
Mr. Nyambe, sorry, I don't think we can hear you very clearly. Maybe your phone is a bit too close.
Hello?
Yes, I think that sounds a bit better.
Yes, I just wanted to ask this project of reseller and Masokotwane. We are trying to call the labor inspector from Fatima, but they really not help us. When we are calling them to come and solve the problem, we are used to wait night time, but there is no allowance for night time. We used to wait the overtime and they don't pay for the overtime. So when we are calling the labor inspector, they are saying, just give me the number for the main contractor or the one which is on the site. I don't know now what can we do.
So a labor inspector has never gone out to actually see what is happening on the ground. Are we understanding correctly, even though that you guys have laid the complaints with the...
No, the labor inspector was here. When he just came in at the site, he just only meet with the one person and he go back.
Okay.
He joined to the window, the way he cannot even do anything. He just only joined. Maybe I can just say we just only waste our money to join the union. This man, we don't know what this is for.
Okay.
Yes, that's our complaining here. And we don't know this letter of Fatima. They really waiting or they are just only seated in the office and eat money for the government. It's better to close this letter office because we don't know what is the purpose of him to sit there in the office.
Okay. So he only came out once, only spoke to one person, and thereafter he just requested for the number of the employer.
Sorry?
I'm trying to understand your situation right now so that the panelists can also understand where or how to comment. So in your experience, this inspector only came out once and he only spoke to one person and went back, and he has never come back again.
Yes.
And also...
This came once when those other guys, they were fighting it, they tried and solve the problem of fighting. Since the first the first day when we were starting working is when we were coming here. You were just only mistaking far from the workers. Maybe that worker was just only passed by to go to the trade. They just only call him, come and just only talk to him when he went straight.
Okay.
Yes.
Pardon me. Okay, Mr. Nyambe, thank you very much. I'll pose that to the panelists.
Okay.
Ms. Aune, maybe you'd like to comment on that?
I can only thank Mr. Nyambe for taking this moment, for utilizing this moment and coming to notify us. I wouldn't really call for the office to close, because then it serves the region too. But we will look into Mr. Nyambe's situation and what Mr. Nyambe indicated, so that we can then be able to resolve the problem. What I am notifying our Namibian people is that in a situation where they really realize that the regional office is not responding to them in the way that they have expected to be responded to, I always tell that we have channel of commands and channel of communication, and therefore any client of ours can take a step further so that they communicate to the head office. And then we will then be able to work with them and be in a position to address the situation. So I thank Mr. Nyambe, and I'm inviting him to contact us at head office as well, so that we can further take steps toward ensuring that their issue is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aune. And I'm hoping that really, Mr. Nyambe, that case sounds very serious. And I'm really praying that the necessary officers can assist you in that matter. Our next question then goes back to complaints and challenges. I don't know, Mr. Amukwa, maybe you can assist us with this one. In an event where an employer is found to be non-compliant with the labor law, what actions should a labor inspector take to ensure compliance?
Thank you very much. The non-compliance is whereby the Act authorizes in terms of Section 126, authorizes the labor inspector who has a reasonable ground to believe that that employer is not complying with the provision of the Labor Act as prescribed in the Act, to issue a compliance order in a prescribed form. That would be, the effect of that would be for the employer it compels the employer to comply with the provision of the Labor Act, unless that compliance order noted within a note was given, or it was appealed with the labor court. So within 30 days after the issuing of the compliance order, so he has either to comply, otherwise the legal institution for non-compliance will be instituted against that employer.
Okay, okay. You'd like to add anything, Ms. Aune?
Yes, I would like to add to the response that also, in addition to Section 126 that gives power to the labor inspector to issue compliance order, as well as a regulation that are made under the Labor Act, Regulation 11, Section B, Section 3, subsection B of Occupational Safety and Health give power to a labor inspector that is responsible for occupational safety and health to stop any employer carrying out of work activity or close the business if there are serious or persisting threatening hazardous or threatening safe risk to human life. Now, and that order shall stand unless or until the corrective measures are put in place by the employer. That simply means that if an employer is not complying and is or persisting and the situation is life-threatening, a labor inspector can issue a closure and the business will close for that particular period. At the same time also, should the respondent then of an arbitration award did also not respond to the order to comply to the award, and if given a prescribed times to also honor that award and did not do so, so a labor inspector have the power to approach High Court so that we get a writ of execution and then assign a deputy sheriff to the case to at the same time attach the property of the respondent and auction it so that we can repay and honor the arbitration award in favor of the applicant. So those are really issues. I think you have seen many other times advert of the deputy sheriff. You have also had some of the organizations where their buses or any other machine or any other materials are attached. So, and I'm really proud to say that in the financial year alone of 2021-2022, we collected over 2.8 million for our Namibian people from the complaints of a particular salary component that is not paid or arbitration awards. And these are not necessarily cases where Aune is owed 300,000 or Amukwa is owed 200,000 that they could easily amount to over 2.8 million. It is cases where one is it's owed 1,000 there, the other one is 10,000 there, 20,000 there, you know, put together to make up 2.8 million. That would necessarily mean we are really trying to do our level best to make sure that our Namibian people or anybody who is employed within the border of Namibia is treated as and remunerated as expected. So, and those are the issues that are really done when one is not complying. Yeah.
We have a social media comment on one of our platforms, and that is on our Facebook platform. We've got Benny for Beye. Benny is asking, employment equity is seriously questionable all over Namibia. What is the Office of the Labour Commissioner and Labour Inspectors doing to address this unfortunate phenomenon and to educate the nation and employers on the importance of employment equity with regards to race, sex, and disability? Thank you, Benny. I think that is actually a good, well-constructed question, and it's quite on the point. Actually, we've got a lot of these issues. I'll read that question again. Employment equity is seriously questionable all over Namibia. What is the Office of the Labour Commissioner and Labour Inspectors doing to address this unfortunate phenomenon and to educate the nation and employers on the importance of employment equity with regards to race, sex, and disability?
Thank you. The Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employee Creation has the mandate that covers really different offices. We have the Employment Equity Commission that is having a mandate of looking into the subject matter. At the same time, we also have the Labour Commissioner that deals with the resolutions of the conciliation and arbitration of dispute. So in a nutshell, what I could really say is that we are working together with the Government Information Center, and we have lined up discussions to address all mandates of our ministry, which will definitely also include the component in questions, because I believe that we will be able coming over to discuss as per our mandate and responsibility to address the issues. And I think the questions will suit very well the Employment Commissioner's office. And therefore, we will be able to make sure that we take it along for them to be able to prepare accordingly for the response. Yeah. But other than that, when we are doing then our inspection and to try to see compliance in terms of the Labour Act, we also make sure that we collect data pertaining to those that are employed and the sex of those that are employed, so that we also look at the trend of employment within a particular organizations and work together with our colleagues that need to address the issue. So yeah, I think I could leave it at that and assured our colleague that the same discussion will come up so that they could correctly and in totality addressed. Yeah. I do not want to touch yet and unconstructively, yes, you know, touch on them. So, my brother, I think the adverts goes off of who and when and which topic that will be discussed on our webpage as well, yeah, and our Facebook account.
So, Mr. Benny, there you have it. Ms. Aune is indicating that there will be a session that will have members representing the Labour Commissioner. And during that session, here at the Government Information Centre, questions such as yours will be covered, and we would have other representatives who are best positioned to respond to that particular question. Mr. Amukwa, my next question speaks to offences. And we would like to know from you, what do labour inspectors classify as offences in relations to labour issues?
Yes, thank you very much. The offences that constitute transgression in terms of section 127 relate to anyone who wants to hinder or obstruct the labour inspection. And also, if anyone can give the false or misleading information to a labour inspector, or any person out there who, because of chances, trying to pretend as a labour inspector. Okay. As it was allotted by the director, says the labour inspector is only a person who is employed in terms of section 124 of the Labour Act, with a mandate to enforce the Labour Act. And the offences are that anyone who found in contravention of that section is liable upon conviction to a maximum up to 10,000 or 2 years in prison, or they can receive both a fine and a term in prison.
But staying with the labour issues now, because my mind is now coming up with, for you to respond to an issue, for example, there's a complaint. I, who is laying the complaint, what type of issues constitute a labour issue that I can get up and approach your officers about?
Yes.
What is an offence? What is, how, I, who's an employee, what type of actions from the employer are credible for me to approach your officers as a complaint that I can lay as something that an employer is committing an offence on with regards to how I work at their place of work?
Yes, thank you. As I have alluded from the beginning, that a complaint, first of all, before you bring the complaint to the labour inspector, first the labour inspector check whether this is a legitimate complaint, meaning that it's within the scope of the labour inspection. So the complaint, normally they should be either part of the basic condition of employment in terms of Chapter 2, or on the Chapter 5 of the Occupational Health and Safety. So it's when that one, the labour inspector can now be able to determine that, yes, your employer convened that section is within the mandate of the labour inspector to determine that issue. Otherwise, other than that, it's outside the jurisdiction of the labour inspector to do it, because it's only mandated for the labour inspector to conduct. I think my director will end.
Yeah, I could only add that what we are calling out for to our employee really is not to mind to be the one determining this one, it's a labor complaint. And it's only when I am certain that it's a labor complaint, I should go to the Ministry of Labor and lay my complaint. Let us, the Ministry of Labor, be the one to tell you it is a labor complaint. So then we run with it. So I would really say, whenever you feel that there is something that is making you unhappy at your workplace, either a situation or an event or an environment at workplace that you really feel it's making you unhappy. We want people at work and are in a position to perform because they are fine, they are happy. So anything that make you feel that you are uneasy, uncomfortable, and maybe you are not in a position to discuss with your employee, or you are discussing it with your employee and you feel that they are not responding to it. So we are saying, come, discuss with us, and we can be able to, you know, to resolve it. Some of the issues are easily, you just call the employer and it is resolved. So let us be the one saying anything that is between, related to work, and it's making some of the party unhappy, it's a labor issue. So, and therefore need to be resolved.
Okay, okay. As we round off this afternoon session, we would actually love to just pose one more question. To effectively execute the mandate of the ministry, and in particular, labor inspectors, would require collective effort of the tripartite. That would be government, workers, and employers. What can be done to realize that?
It's really for us government to strive to improve in the services that we provide to our people, and the pledge that we will continue to make sure within the resources that is available, effectively carry out and enforce the law. For our employee, we are calling out to them not to give up. If you feel that any of the staff members or the labor inspectors treated you in the way that is not appropriate, move to the next channel of comment within the channel of the ministry and be able to indicate so. Bring out every issues that is making you feel that you are not comfortable or you are not safe at your workplace, so that we can be able to deal with them and resolve them amicably. And for our trade union, which are our ears and our eyes on the ground, to help us report further cases that are emanating related to the employee and their members. At the same time, we are calling on our employer to make sure that the work is safe for the employee. At the same time, the basic condition of employment are as per the Labor Act. So it's a collective effort. We want to hold hand with all our stakeholders as a tripartite and work together to make sure that we make the labor fraternity a good havens within the Namibian border. Thank you.
Okay, there we have it. I'm hoping and trusting that somebody out there today has been educated with regards to labor inspectors, their powers, their duties, and also just being informed of what channels